everyone. We're here for another episode of our podcast. And today I'm going to share with you my mom's recipe for a nice, cool, no oven required dessert. It's chocolate salami, or salami, if you will. Called like that only because of its shape and the final visual effect. There are very few ingredients for this dessert, so make sure you use high quality ones. And you have cookies, and by cookies I mean butter cookies, chocolate chip cookies, the round Maria's cookies. I wouldn't use the vanilla wafers or that type of cookies because they get way too soggy. Then crunchy amaretti and cocoa powder, butter, sugar, espresso. That's it. So you crumble the cookies and the amaretti. In order to do so, I put them in a Ziploc bag and then I just go with my rolling pin. If you don't have a rolling pin, you can use a bottle. Some of the cookies and the amaretti will remain a little bigger. Some will almost go down to dust, but that's okay because the bigger pieces will act like the fat pieces in the salami, and the dust or the pulverized ones will actually help bind the whole final product. It's always better to have both cookies and amaretti because the amaretti give a little bit more of a crunch because they don't really absorb the liquids, and they give an almondy flavor that is really, really nice. So you combine in a big bowl all of the dry ingredients and then you stir them, making sure that you have all evenly combined. Then you melt the butter and bring it to a room temperature, and you add 1 espresso to the butter, but have a second one handy because you may need it. So you add the butter espresso mixture to the cookie base, and then you start stirring with a wooden spoon. But then you will need to dig your hands in it, and that's one of the only times I actually use gloves because otherwise you will have chocolate and butter all over your hands, under your nails. Not a nice feeling. So you start kneading it almost if you were making pasta dough or pizza dough until it starts coming together. If you see that it's still too crumbly and it's not coming together, that's when the second espresso comes handy. Start adding a little by little of the second espresso until you get the feeling that it will hold together. At this point, I get parchment paper or wax paper. They both work well because it doesn't go in the oven. And I transfer the whole mixture onto the paper, and I start giving it a salami shape, so a sort of a cylinder. Initially, just trying to clamp it together, and then with the help of the paper, you will be able to give a nice shape. Then you, still with the paper, you roll it up tightly, and then you tightly wrap with plastic wrap because you don't want to risk it going dry. And so you want to make sure it's really tightly wrapped. Once you do that, it can stay in the fridge a week up to 10 days. It will need at least a couple hours to settle, so if you plan on using it in the evening, at least make it in the morning so that it'll have the time to get solid nicely. When it's time to serve, pull it out of the fridge about an hour or so before, and a lot depends also on your room temperature, because it's going to be easier to slice if it's slightly softened. Make sure you have high quality ingredients. I usually use unsweetened cocoa powder, so if you do use sweetened cocoa powder, lower the amount of sugar you add afterwards. I generally use unsalted butter, but that's entirely up to your taste. I do think that probably a salted butter, given the quantity of butter that goes in there, may be a little bit too much, just because you end up having that salty flavor that may not really go well. Although salted chocolate is one of the biggest trends, so who knows. If you do try with salted butter, let me know how it turned out. So espresso, the reason why we're using espresso, and if you really don't like the idea you can use milk, is because espresso enhances the chocolate flavor. You don't really taste it. It really brings out the chocolate flavor. I have just posted it on my blog. It's in dual language, so it's both in English and in Italian, and I will put the link in the description. There is no video for this one. I mean, it's fairly simple to make, but who knows, maybe sometimes I will have the time to also make a video recipe. And let me know what you think of the recipe, if you try it, how it turned out, if you use unsalted butter, if you use salted butter, whatever your ending result is. If you like chocolate, you will not be disappointed. Mom makes it all the time. I make it all the time. Everybody absolutely loves it. So please let me know what you think. Leave a comment and I will reply as soon as I possibly can. Ciao!